Okay, it's time to get started. This is the Tucson Amateur Astronomy Association monthly general meeting. I'm Ed Foley. I'm the president of TAAA. We meet here on the first Friday of every month. And tonight we have members here in the audience at Stewart Observatory Auditorium, where we meet each month. But we also have members on Zoom, and we've got visitors on social media as well. So we have a good group here, and we've got a little different program for you tonight. I'll tell you about it in a moment. As usual, we've got some technical staff helping make this all happen. Susan Knoll is on the cameras, and Jim Knoll running the electronic operations for us. And I guess Terri Lappin tonight is working social media, so they'll help bring this all together. And they will get the video posted on our YouTube channel, so you can be sure that you don't miss anything. When they get that posted, we'll have a record for you. Tonight, the program's going to be a little different. You know, TAAA has a dual mission. We have a mission that calls for us to provide for our members content and opportunities to explore astronomy, to do observing, to learn from each other. And many times at our monthly meetings, we have a speaker that is talking about astronomy topics of varying amounts to varying depths, sometimes very cutting edge stuff. The other half of our mission is to take what we've learned and go out into the community and to share with the community at schools, at parks, at locations that visitors want to see the sky. We go out and we share what we've learned and hope to inspire them to learn more about astronomy. It is something that as an organization we do very well. And tonight we've got three of the leaders who are involved in organizing those efforts that are going to share with you what their groups do. Bernie Stinger, who heads our school star party and organizes our parks visits, is going to share what his group does. Jim Knoll, who heads our paid star parties, that gives their time to go to resorts and visit with corporations that want entertainment for the night. I love that we are entertainment. And Terri Lappin, whose Starry Messenger group does hands-on activities, often for younger children to show them principles in astronomy, sometimes complementing what Bernie is doing, sometimes just showing up at events and manning booths to give some knowledge to the kids that are coming through at the various festivals that we support. Each of them with a group of volunteers that do an outstanding job of inspiring kids, inspiring families throughout the year. So tonight, we're going to start with Bernie Stinger. You're up first, Bernie. Is that correct? Come on up. Tell us what you do.
Just a moment. I'm Bernie Stinger. I'm the Star Party Manager for the unpaid or nonprofit side of the club, as well as for the national parks, state parks, county parks. This year, we've got 13 different venues in the park system alone. That's in the Southern Arizona area. Just a brief background on myself. Not too many people know. I'm originally from Minnesota. I moved here. Well, I thought it was okay, but you could understand why I moved here. And we won't go any further than that. I retired back in 2015 and moved down here to Tucson to get away from the cold, and immediately came to the conclusion that I needed something to do. And I was going through one of the Tucson, what's going on in Tucson magazines, and noticed this star party that was going to happen down at PCC on the East Campus, and thought, that sounds interesting. I had an interest in astronomy for years back when I was younger. So I went over there and ran across Jim Knoll, first person I walked up to with his scope and his one of his puppets on the side. Well, not puppet, I'm sorry, Snoopy. And fell in love with the idea. This is what I want to do. And that's how I got here. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about the outreach program, and I myself are going to be specifically talking about the nonprofit side of it. So to begin with, what's the value of outreach? Well, I'm not going to sit here and read slides to you, don't worry. But probably the first one on the slide here is the most important to me, and that is to providing astronomy to people who would not normally have access to it. They don't know where to go for it. They don't have a telescope, or maybe they bought a cheap telescope and they got disappointed with it. They want to show their kids things. There's various reasons for that. But that's the real value of outreach for me personally. And I know it is for many of the guys that do outreach. Our outreach program is divided into 3 different sections, as Ed alluded to. There's the nonprofit side, the Tucson Stargazing Adventure paid side that Jim Knoll deals with, and then the Starry Messenger group, which Terri Lappin will be talking about, as well as Jim here momentarily. And of course, there's the Grand Canyon as well, which we all know and love. So why do we do this? Well, clearly, it keeps us interested, especially those in outreach. It keeps us up to date on what's happening, because the public quite often will come and say, "What's that I heard about in the news the other day?" You better know a little bit about it. Of course, there's just the joy involved, not only the joy from our standpoint, but the joy that we give people when they come up to a scope. And what's the most common phrase that you hear when people come up to your telescope and take a look at? I know it is for me, it's, "Oh, wow." In fact, one of my favorite things to do is when I've got a line of people, I tell them, "Now you're going to come up to the scope and you're going to say, 'Oh, wow.'" And they go, "Yeah." And they come up to the scope and they look and they go, "Oh, wow." Happens every time. And of course, there's also the appreciation of doing it. Now, the nonprofit side starts with a monthly, what I call the volunteer request sheet. And that is something that I email out around mid-month to everybody who is registered on Member Planet. And that's 500 and roughly 540, 550 people. I don't believe it's everybody in the club. But that automatically gets mailed out mid-month, and it looks similar to this. I did a little excerpt of it here. It'll start out right at the top saying the volunteer request. Then it'll go on to list the individual star parties that are happening the next month. So if I send one out in September, which I will do, then that will be for the star parties in October. And so when you get that list, you look through it, you see, you identify any that look interesting to you, and you email back to me with that same email address. You don't have to look up any special address. Just reply to this list and let me know that you're interested in that star party or a list of the star parties that you're interested in. And don't feel free to ask for a bunch of them. It's not uncommon for me to get a request for a half a dozen or more. And I'll come back to you, hopefully within a short period of time, definitely within 24 hours, and let you know if if you're on all of them or if you're on only some of them. And I'll tell you which ones you're on and which ones you aren't on. The ones you aren't on are because they've already filled up. And I run it with a first come, first served basis. So once the requirement, in this example here, 2 scopes are needed. Once that requirement is filled, then I draw the line and go, okay, that's it. The public events are listed, the public events in this list that I send out monthly. The public events are listed on the TAAA website, on our Facebook page, and in the NSN network website. So those are available for all to see. Anybody in the public can go to our website, on our Facebook page, and they can see that those events are happening. Now, typically, those are the ones that are at the national, state, and county parks. Schools are considered private. We don't want people just showing up at schools. And occasionally that kind of somebody tries to do that. They somehow find out about it and then show up and want to get under the school grounds. The schools are becoming more and more less interested in letting the public just walk onto their school grounds. So we try to keep those private for security procedures on the school's part. Where did I leave off here? Desert Skies. In our newsletter, all of these events are listed in our newsletter. Now, the ones that are listed in the newsletter, even though it's all the events, I'll show which ones are already filled and which ones still have availability to them. So if you're wondering towards the end of the month which are still available, you can go there and take a look on the newsletter. 3 or 4 days before the start party, I'll send out another email saying, now remember, you signed up for this. You got to show up now. And that has a twofold effect. That reminds you, and it also gives you enough time to come back to me and go, wait a minute, I changed my mind, I can't make it. So that's typical. I send out an email beforehand. We do have mentoring for new volunteers. Generally, if someone new wants to join our Start Party group, and we certainly want new members in the club to approach me about doing some of these events. We do offer a mentoring capability. Either I myself will come to the Start Party with that person, or I'll ask someone who is coming to that Start Party to help this new person out, kind of give them the background of how to do things. On some of these Start Parties, the toolkits that Terri deals with are also available. So occasionally some of them will have both as well. There'll be telescopes outside and a toolkit inside. one of the last things I do is to input the information of the star party into a database. That database is spreadsheet oriented, and it shows who went to the star party, how many hours it was, where its location was, and most importantly, how many viewers were there. That is helpful not only for record keeping, but it also gives me a good idea the next time they do one at that school to either have less or more people for the next time around. The volunteer list, again, helps our nonprofit status. It fulfills the requirements for the events. We don't want people that are unscheduled show up with their telescope. I prefer not to, at least. I'd like to know who's coming, because in some of these events, the area is limited. And if it's got room for two and I got 4 people, it's chaos, especially if you have a lot of viewers going on. So it's important for people to sign up for it. Schools are increasingly needing to know who's on their ground. Sometimes they have passes, so that you have to get a pass onto the school ground volunteers do get credit for their time and effort, but only if I know that they're coming. And that credit goes towards our new policy, which we're going to be talking about here a little later this evening. And of course, I love spending hours and hours and hours in front of my computer putting all of this together. What do we do when we go out to a star party? Well, it's actually quite involved. Quite often we'll need to start. When I say manually, operate manually, I mean, if it starts early enough, a lot of scopes require some kind of calibration. You've got to be able to point at some stars and get the scope oriented. If it starts too early, can't see the stars yet. You might be looking at planets. So it's good to be able to just aim at a planet, turn it on, and start talking. Young observers need a lot of help, especially the first time. Probably the biggest problem is telling them don't grab the telescope. Their instinct is to go up and do this. And how often have they pulled it down and thrown it way out of whack? Or my very favorite, and the story I like to tell, is the school I went to, and they made s'mores just beforehand. So you can imagine all these little kids running out into the field with their hands full of s'mores. It happened. That wasn't fun. Small red lights are helpful at the eyepiece, especially for the elderly, so that they can see where the eyepiece is. I have that problem out at Grand Canyon. I brought my own light along because I couldn't find where the eyepieces were. When explaining objects, it's usually best to keep it simple. Don't go into a heavy depth, especially with the younger generation. They won't understand it unless they ask. And it's amazing how smart some people are about the objects that they're looking at. And they'll grill you on it. And of course, it's important that we avoid touching children according to our minor policy. Common questions that we hear when we come out to a star party. What telescope? What are these different types of telescopes? Which one should I buy? How much does it cost? So it's all good information to have in your head beforehand. And one of my favorites is, how do you find objects in the sky? and I tell them the scope knows where they all are. How many of you go back to the old setting circles? Oh, wasn't that fun? Yeah, I remember setting circles. My first scope was a C8, an old red tube C8 with setting circles on it. Okay, a little bit about last year and this year so far. Last year's statistics, you could see we did very, very well last year. We had 116 events altogether, and I had to coordinate every single one of those. Now you understand 4 to 5 hours in front of the computer. When you coordinate these things, it's not just set up some people and tell them where to go. You've got to talk to the teachers. You've got to talk to the rangers. You've got to make sure you've got the right date, the right times. You've got to argue with them on the time range. If they want to start in the middle of the day, they're not going to be able to look at stars no matter how hard you try. You've got to monitor the clouds and make sure the weather's okay. You're filling out databases. It's a lot more work than it appears to be on the surface. Almost exactly half of it was school and public. A little bit more public events this year. I'm trying to add in more state parks and national parks and county parks into the Star Party program. I like them personally myself. I know a lot of the volunteers do as well, because you get a nice age range. And families like to come out to these. They're more reluctant to go out to a class, a school, for example, right around dinner time. But they're more than willing to bring the whole family out to a national park or a state park. And the state parks are really picking up on it. I've added a few new ones in the last year and a half. Picacho Peak, which at first I thought was going to be too far and nobody's going to want to do it. Well, now it's the first one to fill up. Everyone wants that. Tumacacori is another popular venue. Juan Santa Cruz out on the west side. And now just recently, we've added Tubac Presidio to the group. So we're getting a nice spread of parks around the southern part of the state. I don't go above. I prefer not to go above Picacho Peak. That's really getting into the Phoenix realm, and I expect Phoenix to deal with those. The total number of participants is the actual viewers on scopes. So that's we've got a good start on this year so far. We're halfway, a little over halfway through the season, and I think we're doing well. And lastly, this is a slide showing all of those that have been involved with the outreach, the nonprofit outreach over the last 2024 and 2025 year to date. So some of those numbers are small yet on the year to date because we've still got September, October, November, and December to go. But here's the numbers so far. And I always like to point out the real the people that are really pushing hard and doing a lot of work for us. Jeffrey Johnston, for example, does an excellent job. Thank you, Jeffrey. Tom Sarko, Jim O'Connor, Gary Wells, Richard Spitzer, and who else I was looking for there? Chuck Schroll. Amongst everyone, everyone's doing their part. Now you'll notice that there's a lot of names on the 24 section that have not done anything yet for 25. So I'm hoping that those people are going to step forward and put in a few hours as well. And I also welcome any new members or anyone that would like to do outreach to let me know either here at the meeting or, excuse me, by email, and let me know that you'd be interested, and I will make sure that you get on the volunteer list. And with that, I'd like to turn the mic over to Jim Knoll, and he can do TSA.
All right, thanks, Bernie. Let me get the other slides up. All right, I think we're there. Yeah, so I've been in the club for about 23 years. And when we first moved to Tucson, I got a little 8-inch mead. And I sat there for about a year or so, floundering around, not really knowing what I was doing. And somebody said, well, why don't you go join the club and learn the scope and learn the sky? And so I did, and I spent probably about a year and a half doing the astronomy fundamentals. Back then it was called the beginner's SIG, and started learning a lot of that kind of stuff. And after I got familiar with the scope and with the sky, I started doing some of the outreach programs, and I really, really liked those. As Bernie mentioned, probably one of the key things that kind of keeps you going is that wow factor from the public. We've been doing, Susan and I have been doing the Grand Canyon Star Party for, I don't know, 16 or 17 years. One of the first ones we did up there, it was in the, it wasn't in the current location, but we had a little boy come over and look at Saturn. And he got so excited that he went yelling across the parking lot at the top of his lungs, I saw Saturn, I saw Saturn. He went and dragged his whole family back over to the telescope. So those kinds of events really kind of keep you going with this. And so I did the school and the public program for a while, and then I transitioned into doing the private events. So our private events are called Tucson Stargazing Adventures, so we're the other TSA. So don't come to us and try to fly, because that's not going to work. And we do the private events for the club. And we actually have, I mean, we're blessed with such great skies here that even out at some of the resorts, we can do a great job. So we're basically an outreach or an extension of our outreach mission. So just by operating the telescopes, we are providing ideas for the public when they come up about, you know, how the telescopes work. We're going to educate them about astronomy, hopefully correct some myths or some misperceptions that they've got. And we actually do a few paid events where maybe a member, or not a member, but one of the public has a telescope and really wants to get more detailed knowledge about it. We'll have one of the members that's familiar with the scope go over and spend some time with them. And that's an opportunity to get that telescope out and start using it. And then obviously we have the club recognition as part of this program as well. It is one of the major fundraising events for the club. And so the money we bring in through TSA goes to fund the Chiricahua Astronomy Complex operations and maintenance. And so between that funding and the user fees for rooms and for the RV sites, member pads, member observatories, and the storage containers, all that income makes our CAC site, which is, in my opinion, one of the premier sites in the country, pretty much self-sustaining, which is good because then we don't have to be raising member dues to fund this private or this member complex. So between the TSA events and the other user fees, we do a pretty good job of keeping things going. Our primary customer is the resorts. We probably do the bulk of our star parties with the resorts. And the reason I like doing the resorts, sometimes they're not the best lighting situation, but you have an opportunity to interact with people from around the country and around the world, which is one of the reasons why we really like doing the Grand Canyon Star Party as well. And so by interacting with those people, you're able to give them a show and talk to them about astronomy that, they could be coming from Chicago or New York City or someplace that just has incredible light pollution. And even at one of our resorts, you're going to have some pretty good skies. So that is pretty good. And then we also do a lot of private organizations, and we do a lot of private events. We do weddings, birthday parties, anniversaries, all kinds of really cool things for the smaller families and smaller events. And those I actually really enjoy doing because you can spend some time talking with them. You can let them play around with the scope. And I try to let, especially the younger kids, I'll try to let them operate the telescope as much as I can, because that just kind of gets them more involved instead of just looking through the eyepiece. We also do events out at CAC and at TIMPA. So the cool thing about bringing people out to CAC is the 40-inch telescope. We've done several small groups on that, and they start looking at some of the objects in that telescope, and they are just floored. And they are hooked. We spend, 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours at the telescope, and just really give them an opportunity to see some really deep sky kinds of stuff. And then we also do some events at TIMPA. And this picture here is actually out at TIMPA. It was a company that was doing a little gathering. They didn't want to do it at the resort. So sometimes we'll bring them over to TIMPA because it's closer to them to be able to do that, and we've got fairly dark skies. So TIMPA works pretty good too. Our process, I'm not going to go through it because it's very similar to what Bernie described. We just do it on a smaller scale. So I'll usually have people, will contact me directly. I'll get everything set up, and then I've got a list of about 17, 18 volunteers, and I send that list out monthly just to those volunteers, and they sign up just like they do with Bernie, and then we kind of go through the same process. So that works pretty straightforward. Our number of scopes varies quite a bit. Sometimes we do a single scope event, so you have to be kind of prepared to be the show. And sometimes we've had events where we've had 5 or 6 telescopes going. And so we've done some really large events. Most of them are 2 hours long, similar to what Bernie does. And we usually do a good setup time so you have plenty of time to get things going. Because we do resorts a lot and places that are a little bit out of the way, you have to kind of be prepared to move your equipment manually. Most of us have the little convertible wagons that we use to kind of haul the equipment, get it into position. So that's why we normally have a little bit longer setup time than you might for some of the public events. We do still adhere to the miners policy. We take it one step forward and ask that our volunteers also do just a basic background check so we can say if somebody asks that our volunteers are vetted. We've never had any problems. I don't ever expect to have any problems, but that's just an extra step we try to do. And we do operate it as a business. So we try to treat the client as a customer and try to give them the respect that they need for that. So, short of, something that might damage the equipment or hurt you, we try to abide by what they want. Sometimes it's a little bit hard. This picture is Tanque Verde Guest Ranch. That's one of the locations we've done some events at. It looks awfully bright in there, but when we actually start doing observing, this string of lights right here and the one down this direction we shut off, so the lights are really just down at the far end, and it's not bad. But this is one of the locations they do some of their dinners at. And so they'll have a big dinner going on, and then people will just kind of cycle through the telescopes. We have quite a few resorts that actually like to do them on a monthly basis. And so we've that's kind of nice because we can kind of get into a flow and be able to really chat with some of the customers. You need to, if you want to help, and I really encourage you to get involved if you would like to, and I'll show you my contact information at the end. But you do, because you could be operating, just by yourself or with one or two scopes, you do want to make sure that you're familiar with your equipment and that you know the sky pretty well so that you can find things pretty easily. If you have an equipment issue, if you're the only one there, then you got to try to do your best to try to operate manually and find stuff manually, and you do what you can. But sometimes we just have issues that we can't. We're always good at we like to have both visual and the electronic assisted astronomy. In fact, in this picture, this is Jerry Hodge out at the Marriott, JW Marriott, and Jerry's scope back here in the background is a unistellar. So his was an EAA scope, and then this is my C11 up front that we were doing visual. So it's kind of nice to be able to give them both a visual and an electronic experience. This just shows some of the numbers over the past several years. I'll just pretty much focus on last year was the full year, last full year we did, and that'll kind of just give you an idea of how many events. Not as many as Bernie does with the school ones and the public. We did 92 last year, all in person. We do offer a virtual option, but we haven't had anybody take us up on it. But if you had like I don't know, you were doing a family kind of event over Zoom or something, we could actually give somebody a star party if they wanted to do that and show objects just like when we do our visual ones that we do for the club. So like I said, most of them are with the resort, but we do quite a few personal ones and other organizations. Last year we did 137 telescopes for about a little over 300 hours with 17 volunteers for 461 volunteer hours and about 3,000 participants. So a lot of those participants are from all over the country, so that's really kind of cool. There's my list of volunteers, a little bit smaller than Bernie's, but these guys everybody on here does a phenomenal job helping out, and I really appreciate it because it really brings in it not only brings in money for the club, but it extends our outreach and it gives the club some good advertising. Here's another picture at the Ritz-Carlton, the Dove Mountain, that you can see is fairly dark. As long as you're not looking back towards the resort, you've got pretty good skies. So, like any of them, we have to try to adjust as best we can to the lighting, because sometimes, especially some of the resorts, if they've got, an icebreaker going on or they've got other kinds of things going on, they like to have it all lit up for the guests. And unfortunately, that doesn't work too good for us. And there's my contact information. So if you guys want to help out or something, feel free to talk to me tonight or shoot me an email. I'd love to have you as part of it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Terri.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Terri Lappin. And just a background, I've been in the club since I was in high school, so let's not go into the details over that. I was on the board for a long time and got to the point where I needed to get off the board and started the Starry Messengers to do outreach. And so I'm going to talk about the outreach group, Starry Messengers. Let's see, does that work? There we go. We are, as you have heard, a part of the outreach program, and we provide the hands-on component to star parties that Bernie runs. We don't do the resort things. I don't think anyone's ever asked for hands-on stuff at the resorts, not that we wouldn't do it. We also schedule the events for the Tucson Festival of Books each year here on campus. And the Tucson Astronomy Festival is the TAAA's event. And we schedule that, do all the advertising. It's our event. Everything is on us to do. And those two events, the two festivals, take up a lot of our time. We also have the Library Telescope Program. This is something that Jim has headed up for many years. We've got 17 telescopes at libraries in Pima County and in Cochise County. We are looking for somebody who can take over the maintenance of these telescopes. Basically, it's an annual inspection of the telescope, and then when there's a problem, and it's not too often that we have problems, but it gets checked out to the public, and if they do something to it, it comes back and the librarians let us know. So if you're interested in helping with taking care of those telescopes, they're small, and you can see it in the picture there. It's a tabletop type telescope, 4.5-inch Newtonian. Talk to me or Jim about helping with that. We also maintain all of the hands-on outreach materials. We offer a 1-hour-long program using a set of Galileo scopes in the classroom to teach telescope principles. And we also make the awards for the science fair each year. The TAAA donates about $400 worth of awards to the science fair. The events, as far as the process is concerned, I get them mostly through Bernie. Teacher will request a hands-on event at one of the star parties. And also some teachers who may not be doing a star party, they also contact me directly. The event organizer, if it comes through Bernie, there's a line on our request form where they would pick which toolkit they want. I'll go into the toolkits in a little bit. Then volunteers, I notify all the volunteers. I've got about 10 people in my group that I send notice out, and they can sign up online to attend any of these events. And then I have to make arrangements to get the toolkit materials to the person who's going to do the event. This is kind of a problem, but in the next coming months, we do have permission to get a more central located place in Tucson with easier access. So that will make that little chore a little bit easier. The Tucson Astronomy Festival planning, it's a big project for us. We have to pick a date. Usually we start about a year, 9 months before we pick a date. We have to get special use permit from the Pima County Parks and Rec people. We have to prove we have insurance, we have to pay fees and all that kind of stuff. Once all that's done, we also, it sets in stone when we're going to do it. It's, rain or shine, we're going to do it. We decide what projects we want to do. We always have telescopes at the event. And we also invite, we do door prizes. So we have to find some door prizes. Usually we get a nicely, a telescope in nice condition donated to the club, and we set that aside for this event as a door prize. We invite other organizations to participate. Lunar and Planetary Lab has come several times, and a lot of different groups. Last year, the Oracle State Park and Catalina State Park both came. And I think that has something to do with the star parties that Bernie's been doing out there. We prepare all of the advertising, and that has to start about 2 months in advance. And so, it's a lot of effort goes into this event outside of the actual 6-hour-long day of the event. We schedule the volunteers, the setup, the takedown, the hands-on operation, make sure we've got telescopes. We do solar telescopes during the day, nighttime telescopes during the night. And then we also have to clean everything up at the end of the event. I then report back to the Parks and Rec how the event went, and I make a report in the newsletter for you all to find out how it went. Now, the toolkits that I'm going to spend most of the rest of the time on were actually created by the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. They were funded by NASA. There are 13 toolkits. They each have a different theme. As I've listed, solar system, exoplanets, black holes, things like that. We as a group, the Starry Messengers, have also developed some projects of our own. And for example, Susan O'Connor created a Making Asteroids project. I did a model of the Earth and Moon, and artist Harold and I worked on a spectroscope that was at the book festival. That was fun project. So those projects are available to take to schools, but they're not Night Sky Network projects. All of the projects we do pretty much can be done within 5 minutes. And most of the time you're working with kids and they have a fairly short attention span. And so if it's going to take longer than 5 minutes, you've probably lost them. But some of them can be expanded into longer presentations. And there's a list here, the website, where you can see all of the projects, all of the themed Night Sky Network toolkits listed. And that's where you start for the training. You would go to a project. I was going to do this online and show you, but due to time, I'm not going to bother. But you would go to the website, pick the toolkit, and that link takes you to places where you can download all the materials, and you can also see the videos for training. This is a sampling of the toolkits. In the top corner, can you see the icon? Yeah, you can see that up there. This is a yardstick with 2 balls. One represents the Earth and one represents the moon. And it's probably hard to see, but there's 2 shadows there cast by the sun. And the idea is that the person would hold it to create either a lunar eclipse or turn around for a solar eclipse. That's from the Shadows and Silhouettes toolkit. The Exploring the Solar System kit, we have a model of the solar system that we can lay out, and kids can play with the planets, put them in order that they want, or the right order or the wrong order, whatever they want. But one of the activities is called Pocket Solar System. And so you take a piece of adding machine paper, which still exists, believe me, and you fold it in multiple times, and then the creases mark the orbits of the planets. The Glass and Mirrors toolkit down at the bottom left has a bunch of mirrors and lenses, and people can play with them, create a telescope, and understand how optics work. Supernova Lives of Stars banner. That's probably a 2 foot by 3 foot maybe banner with a figure 8 shape. One side represents massive stars, the life cycle of massive stars. They have short life cycles, and sun-like stars, which have a longer life cycle. And so you can do a comparison between large stars, smaller stars, and the different phases they go through. And this we tie into the black hole toolkit, because that also talks about black holes, and you can use it to talk about the gravitational pull of a nebula to create a star. And so that it ties in very nicely with different toolkits. And then here are a set of 4x6 cards that could be used at a telescope. And these, you could go online and download these and print them out, use them at your telescope to explain how to use averted vision, why you don't see colors in a telescope. And also the last card there shows the field of view of different sized telescopes. Everything from, I think it's an ultraviolet telescope, which has a very large field of view. This middle one here is your typical backyard telescope, like what your people would be looking through. And then all the way down to the Hubble. This is dated, so it doesn't have JWST on it. So need a new card. Our most popular toolkit is space rocks. We get more requests for space rocks than any other toolkit. It has a project called Meteor Right, Meteor Wrong, which I brought, and I am going to show you a video of how this project would be done. Afterwards, you can come up and try it out if you want. We have a large banner. It's, I think, a 40 square inch banner with the impact sites across the Western Hemisphere. It includes like the Chicxulub impact site. You can talk to kids about the dinosaurs dying and all that kind of, and kids love dinosaurs, so it's good tie-in. Also areas like California, you don't see any impact sites because the earthquakes tend to erase the evidence. We also have asteroid models that go along with the banner showing the Western Hemisphere. So there's to scale. So you can show the size of the largest asteroid series is about the size of the state of Texas. And so you can hold it up and they get a feel for kind of like that. Sorting solar system objects is a very simple thing that little kids can do. And it's just a bunch of pictures of solar system objects. They can organize them by shape, by size, by color, whatever they want. It's nice because there's no right or wrong answer. They sort them how they want to. But then you can also use that as a way of explaining to adults that you can classify things differently, and that is why Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet, just looking at characteristics of planets. There's also two handouts, meteors, meteor showers, and comets. So now I'm going to show you this video because this is a very nice, it's used a lot. I'm going to stop the share. And I'm going to reshare now the video. It says share sound, right? All right, should be able to hear it, guys, if it shares. There we go. Is it working? What? Oh, up here? Oh. Media player. Here we go. I have to hit that. Okay. It doesn't have a green box around it, huh? Is it working? Is it sharing? Okay, super. But there's no sound. Oh man, how come there's no sound? Bummer. Yeah. Well, I walk you through it. All right, so she's showing this little cheat sheet. It's got pictures on it and the notes on the backside for the presenter. And one of the things that we do is it comes with a magnet. You put a magnet in front of a kid and you've lost them. They're going to play with the magnet. So you want to kind of hide the magnet. Okay. She's talking about the different rocks. There's a total of 8 rocks, I believe. And so here she goes. She hides the magnet, and she's showing you one of the pieces is a sliced meteorite, and so she takes that away. And so you're left with a bunch of rocks, and it says down at the bottom, these rocks I'm not sure about. And the idea here is to walk a person through the characteristics of a meteorite, and then they would pull out the ones that don't match those characteristics, and you're left with the ones that you think are meteorites. And so now she's talking about how a meteor, to hit the Earth, it has to be strong enough to survive the passage through the atmosphere. So anything that has porous texture, bubbles, things like that, it's not going to survive passing through the Earth's atmosphere. And so she's going to move those. There's a piece of pumice in there, so that's very lightweight, full of holes. And so she's going to move that one up. And then there's another one that's a fossil, and it's got little holes in it. So she's moved those over as not Earth rocks. And now she's going to talk about the metals. All meteorites have metals in them, and metal tends to be heavier than Earth rocks. So you take two rocks the same size, a meteorite is going to be heavier, unusually heavy. Oh, sorry. That's the next step. They're talking about the passing through the Earth's atmosphere. It's going to make it dark. And so she just removed the white one. That's marble. And now she's talking about the metals. There's a section of the thing, depending on the kid, you can talk about the larger asteroids differentiating and having a core of metal. And that metal is what creates most, the iron meteorites. And then the crust of these asteroids would be the stony meteorites. And there's a lot of asteroids that never differentiate it. And so they just would, as they collided over the history of the solar system, they created most of the stony meteorites. We only talk about those two types of meteorites. There's a whole bunch of other classes of meteorites that we just don't mention. We don't want to confuse people too much. Okay, so now she's saying that metal is heavy, so select the ones that seem heavy, or select the ones that seem lightweight. And so she's going to move the lightweight ones over. And I'm glad I watched this a few times to remember what she's saying. All right, so now she's left. There's four rocks left, and now you bring out the magnet. And now the kids get to play with the magnet. And so she's going to pick up the magnetic ones. So there's one there. And there's that one. And now there's another one. So they'll zoom in here. Now, this is the one that she's playing with there now is a stony meteorite. Our stony meteorite doesn't have much iron in it. And so we can't drag it around like that. It just doesn't work. But she's decided that it's magnetic, and so she's going to put it up there. And now we're going to talk about these different rocks that we think are meteorites. One is truly a meteorite. It's an iron meteorite. The other one is the stony meteorite. Now, at this point, our stony meteorite in our kit, the kid usually puts it over as a regular rock, an earth rock, because it's not very magnetic at all. And so at this point, I tell them, okay, so there is a meteorite here, and I'm going to show you how to be a very careful investigator. And so if you put this rock at a certain angle and you bring the magnet very close, all of a sudden it tips over. And so they see that it is magnetic. It's just not really magnetic. And then the other rock there is a lodestone. It's a naturally magnetic rock from the Earth. And then they're going to talk about the crystals in the meteorites. There's a sliced piece, and you can see with the magnifier the little bits of metal in it. So and then there's another section of talking about tektites, because there's a tektite also in this bag. And so then they go on and talk about that. So that's how it would be used. I'm going to have this up here, and you're welcome to come down and try it. Uh-oh, did I stop the share? Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll go back to the presentation now. Here it is. Here. Close that. Okay. All right, so that is the Space Rocks Toolkit. And now I've got, okay, it looks different up there. Okay, I've shown the last 3 years worth of data for the toolkit activities, and I've got to shrink this so I can see it. Okay. Go back. 2024, we had a whole lot of events. We had 32 events. Sorry. Yeah, 32 events. I had about 10, I think it's about 10 volunteers doing those events. The previous year, we only had 20 events. And I had more volunteers last year than in 2023. 2025, it looks like I've lost some volunteers, similar to what Bernie's seeing. Fewer volunteers doing the outreach stuff. And so again, I'm hoping that the rest of the year people say, I can do it. Get on the list. As far as the toolkits, I'm kind of surprised when I looked at this. Space Rocks has only been used one time this year so far. That's kind of like, but that's what it is. Supernova is one that you select parts of it because it's a big project, and a lot of it we just don't want to do in a star party setting. But anyway, that's the data. We had 4 events canceled last year, or the first half of this year. One was due to weather. They just canceled the star party and they didn't want the hands-on stuff. And then 3 were due to lack of volunteers. And then my next slide is for the astronomy festivals and the book festival. Over 2 days, we had 4,544 contacts, but over a 6-hour period at the astronomy festival, we had 2,000. So we did pretty good in a 6-hour period. We did pretty good. And this isn't individual people. This is the number of people our volunteers talk to. There's no way of knowing whether this person only talked to 1 person or talked to 5. So we just count encounters. We had 21 volunteers at the star party at the astronomy festival. This includes the telescope people. Both of them actually include the telescope people. Just with the Festival of Books, we usually schedule 2 telescopes in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and the same thing on the Sunday. So it's a total of 4 telescopes that we schedule. And I think if you want to help, let me know. I always tell volunteers, enthusiasm is the best thing. You don't need to know a lot of stuff. If you are going to talk to kids, if you talk in a very monotone voice, telling them facts, you've lost them. But if you can be enthusiastic, even if you're not telling them facts, they're not going to walk away remembering the fact that you told them. They'll walk away remembering the fun they had doing the activity. So think in those terms of enthusiasm, letting the kid experience what they're, kind of experiment, discover on their own. That goes a long ways more than telling them a fact about how far away the moon is. You have to be patient with kids. I mean, everybody knows that. As far as the minors policy, we require the minimum amount because all of our events are very public. And so we have an annual training during a meeting that covers you for the Starry Messengers events. Training is available on using the toolkits. Most people actually select the on-the-job training. Show me how to do it. I'll watch you. And then as I feel comfortable, I'll take over kind of thing. And that works. That's fine with me. You can come to an event and never, ever run the project. But if you've watched it and you come back another time and do it, that's fine with me. There are online videos as I described, that website, click on the project and then it goes to the videos. We also have DVDs. If anyone still has a DVD player, you can watch the DVDs. And we can also schedule in-person training. I also suggest you take a toolkit home with you and practice it in your home so that something like this where you're really interacting with the kids and they're looking at the rocks and such, that's pretty straightforward. But some of the projects, like the one learning how to, with optics and lenses and mirrors, that takes a bit of practice. And I think you did that one, right? No? Okay. Somebody did that, the glass and mirrors. We don't like glass and mirrors toolkit because it requires a darkened room. And a lot of times we don't have a darkened room to operate in. But we can do it at a star party out near the telescopes. And then, like I said, working alongside doing a mentoring with somebody who knows how to do the activity. And then slowly, the best way I think is I would do the project with the public, somebody else is watching, they are either flipping the pages through the booklet or giving the parts out to the kids to do the experiment, or just trying to keep them from getting out of hand and grabbing everything. It's a challenge. And then eventually that person will learn the activity and start taking over parts of it, and eventually on their own. We have meetings second Monday of the month at 7 p.m. We do not meet over the summer. Our meetings are primarily to inform our volunteers of what's going on, especially with the festivals. And our meetings are either by Zoom or in person. It depends on what we're doing. Because these are very hands-on based projects, you really need to play with the toys. And so when we're playing with the toys, I try to have an in-person meeting. Most of our meetings are by Zoom though. If you're doing hands-on activities, you do not, I do not expect you to attend the Starry Messengers meetings. You're welcome to attend them, but I don't expect, because you bring a telescope or bring a project to a school, that you have to attend one of our Starry Messenger meetings, because most of the meetings are for those festivals. And then we always have a yearly, well, for the last 3 years, we've had a yearly celebration in May to celebrate our accomplishments. And I think that might be it. Yes, there's my contact information. Okay, thanks.
All right, we're going to wrap up with a couple of slides on a new program. So Bernie, while I'm getting the slides up, if you want to start off on that, and then we'll take any questions.
Did you want to bring the slides first? Okay, this is going to be quick, but quick and sweet. It's my honor to introduce a new system we're putting in place called our Outreach Award Program. The Outreach Award Program is an effort of Jim Knoll and Terri Lappin and myself. We've, over the last couple of months, we've been talking about this for years, but over the last couple of months, we've actually put it together and brought it to the board and had the board sanction it and agree to it. So if we could go to the next slide. Why an award program? And this is a slide that we showed the board to justify putting this award system together. But in our opinion, TAAA is one of the best outreach programs in the country. It's been my experience, and I know several of you probably agree with me or would agree with me, is that traveling around the country, talking to other Star Party groups, other clubs around the country, they do outreach, but to a lesser extent than we do. I would have to put us in the top 5 countrywide, if not higher. Certainly, some of us feel that we should be number 1. Not necessarily true, but I think last year we were number 2 according to Doug here. So I think we've done an excellent job of outreach, and that's because of all of you who've donated your time into the outreach program. Now, I'm not going to read all through this. Obviously, you can look through all that data there. But the point is that we've got 80 plus volunteers that are doing this outreach for our club. And that's a huge number. I was in the Minnesota Astronomical Society for many years and, oops, sorry. Um, for many years and did outreach with them. And what they typically did was they had an observatory and they made everybody come to the observatory. And that was it. Now, it was a great outreach program, but if you didn't have the means of driving there, are you gonna partake in it? Or for that matter, who's gonna bring their kids out in the middle of the night when they want to go to bed? So it works, but it doesn't work. And our system, I think, is so much better in that we go to the schools, we go to the parks, we come to them and make ourselves available nearby. Our volunteers pour out their heart and souls. They use their own gas, they use their own cars, they use their own telescopes, they fix their own equipment if it fails, and without complaint, because they want that enjoyment, they want that involvement. And we feel that we should award back to the Star Party members. So with that in mind, I'd like to turn it over to Jim here, and Jim is going to go over the list of awards that we're going to make available.
All right. Yeah, so, we kind of brainstormed what everybody can kind of use when we're doing outreach and doing astronomy. And so we want to make this, something that will bring some joy to you and be able to actually use. One of the things, let me grab one of, so we're going to start with, up there in the upper left, just something that you can wear, an outreach button or something. What we've got is we've got this one that's for 25 hours. And so we're going to have them for different levels, but I think we're going to try to come up with a little better design than this for some of them. But it's something that you're able to wear and when we're doing club events and things like that to show your level of outreach. And so that's going to be kind of the basic level. And then we're going to have a level called Planet, which would involve a hand warmer. So something similar to this, which, you can use a few months out of the year. I wish it cooled as well, but it doesn't. But I tell you what, when you're out in the chilly desert air at night, it's kind of nice to have something like this. And it's also a power bank too, I think, isn't it, Bernie? Yeah. So that's always helpful if you run into a problem. And then the next level would be and it's rechargeable, yeah. The next level would be just an LED light for night, which is kind of handy. This is mine. And it just kind of lights up your name at night, which is really cool. I've actually got about 4 or 5 layers of brake tape on top of this because you can't dim them down enough. And you get out at CAC, and they're actually even blinding out at CAC. So you really are at the Grand Canyon Star Party. But yeah, this is really cool. A lot of people like these when they come up, and they'll be able to call you by name, and you can really interact with them a lot more. So that'll be kind of cool. And then the next level will be an Outback hat. So that's similar to this, so that you can put your pin on or other kinds of things that you can wear. And we are in the process of changing the logo. And I don't know, it'll probably show the logo here in a minute, but the logo may change a little bit. Most of these, the ones with logos, we get on Aztec, which is the company that produces our apparel program. And so they're able to do embroidery and some of those kinds of things. So what we're going to do is when you get this level, you can either do a hat or we'll give you a credit and you can check the catalog and get something else if you want to. And then the next level would be the Galaxy, which would be probably one of the polo shirts or another kind of credit. So this is the polo shirt right here. And again, the logo is going to change just a little bit. It's going to go back to what you see on the pin up in the upper corner. It'll have the round logo on it. And then finally for Universe, it'll be a nice little duffel bag with you can put the logo on as well. But we just wanted to try to get to a point where we could start rewarding some of you everybody that's been participating and helping out and give you some swag. So we're excited about being able to pull that in. And that is it. So with that, I'm going to stop the share. And for anybody on Zoom, feel free to type in any questions you've got. It's like we've got maybe one on there. And anybody in the room? Bernie will bring the oh yeah, one of the things, yeah, we're going to implement this over probably the next 2 to 3 months. Yeah, but hopefully by the end of this year. So we'll be in touch with everybody as we get to that and figure out how to get the stuff to you and everything like that. But yeah, I think it'll be kind of cool. And then it'll be an ongoing process as we go through this. So questions?
Wow, I am incredibly impressed by the number of people you reach and the quality of what you do and how you do things. It's incredibly, and it just is, well, wow, again. And I do actually have fairly broad experience throughout America, and I would actually call it number one. Sorry. And I also have fairly broad experience throughout, or modestly throughout the world. And I would judge that the TAAA EPO is the best in the world. Congratulations, very well done. I'm very proud to have you guys around doing all this. Thank you very much for all your work and for all the things of all the volunteers of which you're the tip of. Thank you very much on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely takes a team. It definitely takes a team. All right, other questions?
So the number of hours that you had for awards, is that annually or a lifetime achievement award?
That'll be a cumulative as you keep going. Yep. Yeah.
Great.
So, yep.
By the way, I didn't mention it, but we have records going back to 2014, which I incorporated into the award system for those who had, were doing nonprofit start parties. So I went back to 2014, added all that in. Jim's been doing TSA now for 3 years. So
Yeah, a little bit longer than that, but
somewhere in that range.
somewhere in that
He's
neighborhood.
added all that in. And then we've also got numbers from Terri. So that's all three of the outreach systems all put together for as far back as we could find information. And also, for those who have already reached a higher level, let's say you're already at the top level, well, you're going to get retroactively the other stuff that you would have gotten at an earlier time too. So you're not being cheated because you've just come onto the system.
All right, other questions in the room? Any questions on Zoom? Looks like we've got a couple of things here. One is a comment from Denira. She says, I'm a former school teacher and I am looking forward to volunteering soon. I am very new, so I will be taking training first and learning the night sky. It's a great way to do it. I am a native New Yorker city, so I have a lot to learn. Very grateful for the presentation. Thank you. All right. All right, and then the last question here is, do you offer any homeschooling events for classes for kids? And we have done homeschooling in the past. We've done a few events like that, and they're organized and things like that, and they can reach out just like any of the other schools can, and the public and the parks and everything. So yes, we have done homeschooling in the past, and look forward to incorporating them as well. All right, any other questions in the room or on Zoom? Anything on social media?
Yeah, the question on YouTube is, do volunteers generally need to bring their own equipment?
Yes. So most of the time, the members that are participating provide their own equipment. Now, we do have programs in place, in particular with Bernie, that if you want to just attend as an observer and not bring your own equipment, you would still sign up with Bernie, but just let them know you're not bringing a scope. And that's a really great way to learn how to use, how to interact with the public and how to do some of the events. I mean, when I told you I first joined the club, one of the things that I didn't know was the sky. And so I used the outreach program to learn the sky. I would study up on 3 or 4 objects for every star party and learn about those. And then the next star party, I'd study up on 3 or 4 different ones. And by the time you keep doing that repetitiously, you start learning the night sky.
Yeah, I'll add that the person who goes to a star party without a telescope is very valuable, especially when you've got a long line to talk to the people. Some of the Night Sky Network projects you can do at the telescope in those lines. We also have star charts that you could hand out and show people the constellations. As far as the equipment for the hands-on activities, most of the equipment is available for borrowing, but you may have to supply like batteries or something like that. But mostly it's not your equipment, it's the club's equipment.
Yeah, and Matthew on Zoom did put probably a list of 10 things that are really good for outreach tips. I'll just cover a couple of them real quick. You know, flashing LEDs on the tripod is always good. Traffic cones can help. Wide field eyepieces are good so people can see things easier. Put reflective tape on your eyepieces. I don't know why they make eyepieces black. You know, so putting a little piece of reflective tape is always good on there. Small red flashlight, a walker or a step stool is good for people to grab onto. Go to, yeah, you can have it talk to people as it's moving, that's fine. And yeah, so those are some of the tips. All right. So I think that is it for that. So I'll turn it back over to Ed and we'll
I've got
wrap
one
it.
more.
Oh, okay.
It's just a comment, no question. Just wanted to say very impressed with the organization and the number of people you reached during a year. Thanks from Ireland for the monthly presentations online. They're fascinating. I think that's the farthest person we've had in our meetings.
Thank you. Those leaders and the others that do our outreach programs, it is something I'm very proud of. Thank you. Okay, we've got a few other things left on the agenda. I don't think Eric Kokoschka is here tonight. I don't see him. I think he's away this month. Eric Kokoschka does our planetary report each month. Those months that he's not able to do it in person, they are on the website, on the landing page. Scroll down and you'll see Eric's report to see what's happening around the solar system. At this point, I think we're ready for Astronomical League again. We have some awards this month that you will see are in theme for tonight. Doug, that's a big box you've got. There you go. Ooh, there's a pile. There you go.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Douglas Smith. I am the Astronomical League correspondent for TAAA. I've been in the Astronomical League for a very long time. I've been into amateur astronomy for the better part of 60 years. Couple things I want to mention before I start doing these awards. My first outreach event was very memorable. It wasn't an official outreach event. I lived in Detroit, Michigan when I was going to college, and I had just gotten my first serious telescope, which was an orange tube Celestron 8. Somebody else mentioned that. And my mother, I was living at my mother's house while I was going to college. My mother was a postal employee, and she would, every once in a while, she'd have her fellow postal employee friends come over to the house, and they'd sit around the table and have tea and, do what ladies do at these type of events. And there was probably 8 or 9 of them sitting around this dining room table. And I just happened to have my telescope set up in our outside patio, right outside the dining room. And I was looking at Saturn with it. Most of these ladies had never looked through a telescope before. And I just walked into the dining room and said, I told my mother I'm out looking at Saturn. And they all said, can we come out and look? And I, sure. There was one lady in particular, and I remember her name very well, Naomi Carlotta. She was my mother's best friend. She went out and she looked through the telescope at Saturn and literally had tears in her eyes when she walked away from the eyepiece. And it was, at least in her eyes, one of the most memorable events in her life. She wrote, I don't know what do you call it, a eulogy, a self-eulogy, a statement that she had read at her memorial service when she passed. And she listed some of the most memorable events in her life, traveling to Paris, doing this, doing this. One of them said, looking through Doug's telescope at Saturn. She listed that as one of the big events in her life. So that, gives me, okay, outreach is important. People, it makes a difference to people's lives. Okay, so that, my quick story. All right, so now, for those of you who don't know anything about the Astronomical League, it is the world's largest amateur astronomy organization. There are more than 330 astronomy clubs that are members of the Astronomical League in the United States alone. It is now a worldwide organization. We have clubs from over 100 countries are now part of the Astronomical League. We have members from all 7 continents, and that includes Antarctica. There are a couple of amateur astronomers down at the South Pole doing research who are members of the Astronomical League. I found that out. There are over 20,000 members in the Astronomical League. Now, I did some statistic background because I knew tonight's talk was going to be all about outreach. And he was saying, in his eyes, we're number 1. Okay, well, we're not number 1. We're number 2 based on the Astronomical League statistics of outreach, but we're close. But we probably will never be number 1 because the number 1 club has some advantages over us that we will probably never be able to catch up. But it's like number 1 is here, we're here, everybody else is down there. Literally, there's a huge gap between us and every other astronomy club in terms of outreach activities. There's no one even close to us. So that's good to know. But I knew someone was going to ask that. It's a club called the Von Braun Astronomy Club. They're out of Houston, Texas. So they have a couple of really big advantages, one being the Johnson Space Center and all of that stuff. So there's a, they have an advantage on us that we're probably never going to overcome. But number 3 is like down in the basement compared to us. So we're good at number 2. Well, the Astronomical League has always considered outreach to be one of the most important aspects of the Astronomical League. And they have their own award program that they do for the Astronomical League. They have it split up into 3 levels, basically. There's what's called the outreach level, which is your first 5 events, 10 hours of outreach. You get what's called the outreach level. Then they have what's called a stellar level, which is 50 hours of outreach. And then they have what's called a master level, which is 100 hours of outreach. I have actually suggested to the coordinator for that program that they create a couple of additional levels for like 500 hours and 1,000 hours, because we have people in this club who have put in that kind of effort. And so they're considering that. When you get these awards, you get a certificate, much like this one. And for the outreach level and the master level, you also get a very pretty pin, like the pins I've got on my hat, which has this picture. You can't see it very well, but it's a hand with some stars and a nice pretty pattern. They're very nice pins. And the master level gets a special pin with a shooting star across it. So it's very, very nice awards. So I've got a whole bunch of these to hand out tonight. What I would like to do as the people come down to get their awards, please stay up here because we're going to do a group photo thing, and that way you can see the whole group. So I'm going to read the names and dish out the awards. So, all right. And not everybody's here, and I know that, so we'll just try to do our best. First name on my list is a gentleman named George Barber. Yeah, he's not here. Yeah. Let's hold the applause until everybody's down here. George Barber got his outreach and his stellar award. Kevin Bays. He left. Kevin Bays got his master award. Brian Betcher. Okay. Brian got his outreach, his stellar. Okay. Gary Copeland. Oh, well, see, he's building up.
Hang on.
Gary got his outreach award.
Hang on just a second, Doug. For those on Zoom, I'm going to just ask if Doug announces you to just raise your hand, use the reactions on Zoom and raise your hand.
All right. Terry Dietz. Terry got his outreach award. John Dwyer. Got a winner. John Dwyer got his outreach award. While he's coming down, I'll keep reading the next names. Oh, look at this. Ed Foley. Ed Foley received his stellar award. Alan Force. Alan Force got his outreach and his stellar. Jerry Gibson. This could be Vanessa Grussel. All right, Vanessa. Vanessa got her outreach award. So she gets a pin too. David Hammery. David Hammery got his outreach award. Pete Herms. Pete Herms earned his Stellar Award. Okay. Ken Hochberg. Ken Hochberg earned his Outreach Award. Where's underneath? Here the H's. Jerry Hodge. Jerry Hodge earned his Outreach, Stellar, and his Master. Yeah, way to go, Jerry. Joe Jacoby. It's a pin for him. Joe got his Master Award. Jeffrey Johnston. Jeffrey Johnston got his Outreach. Mark Johnston. Not here. Mark got his Outreach Award. Okay, we know Eric's not here. Eric Karkashka earned his Outreach Award. Tim Lawler earned his Master. Richard Loper. Richard earned his Outreach Award. Joe Metzger. Joe Metzger earned his Outreach. His Stellar. Peter Morse. Peter earned his Outreach. Okay. Brenda Najedlo. Brenda earned her Outreach Award. John Najedlo earned his Outreach Award. Okay. Susan O'Connor. She's not here. Susan earned her Outreach Award. Okay, not doing very well. Robert Rose. All right. And we got a pin for him. We got it. Okay. All right. Yep. Robert earned his Stellar Award and his Master. Bernard Sandin. Mr. Sandin earned his Outreach and his Stellar. Chuck Schroll. Chuck earned, I'm pretty sure, he earned all three, his Outreach, his Stellar, and his Master. May Smith, she's not here. She got her Master Award.
And May's on Zoom.
All right,
Congratulations.
good for May. Richard Spitzer. Okay. Richard got his Outreach, his Stellar. Okay.
And Richard is on Zoom. And he just
Okay,
gave us the
good for
thumbs up.
Richard. Rick Steiner. Boy, You sent those invitations out, nobody came. Mr. Steiner got his outreach award. Larry Stepp. Larry Stepp got his outreach. Vanessa Thomas. Vanessa got her outreach. Where's her pen? Yep. Steve Thornton. Present. Steve got his outreach. Gary Wells. Gary Wells got his stellar and his master. Robert Williams. Robert Williams got his outreach award. Philip Yaley. Last but not least. And Philip got his outreach award. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your outreach volunteers. For those people who were not present, who were on Zoom, I will mail the awards to them. Now, as time goes on, these three gentlemen who are running the outreach program for TAAA will constantly be sending me their data, and I will update my database once a year and submit that information into the Astronomical League to get the awards as they come out. Okay, I'll take questions now if there's any questions about this stuff.
Are there any questions about the outreach awards or outreach? It was like being in graduation, wasn't it? A lot of our volunteers are hither and yon. Some live in Cochise County, some live in Phoenix. We've got them all over the place, and they all knew that we were interested in seeing them tonight. And thank you all that could make it for coming. I have one important announcement, and that is that apparel is back. We have TAAA apparel with the new logo. Now, this logo, I think it was developed in 2010, so it's not that new. But our supplier, Aztec, has got some new equipment. They're able to do now a much more sophisticated embroidery than they used to be able to do with their equipment with some colors in it. It's quite nice. So take a look at it in the back. We'll have it here during our meetings in the future. So take a mug, get a license plate. It's all available, or you can let us know what you want, and we can order it and have it at the next meeting. We're trying to develop some means of mailing items to you. Some of these can be shipped to you at no extra cost. So take a look at what there is. And I know this group has got a lot of spirit for TAAA, and here's a way to demonstrate it and wear something that'll have people ask you about, what's that all about? A little telescope, what's that? So, any other announcements? Okay, let's say goodbye to social media then.